Yeah. Okay. So hello, and my name is Arnar Þór Jónsson, and with me today is Catherine Austin Fitz. She's an investment banker and publishes the Solari Report, and she has extensive experience in business and also has approached things from the political side through her career. So, Catherine, as we are recording this interview, we are facing a referendum in Iceland, and the question in the referendum is whether or not Iceland should uh, proceed with accession talks with the EU. And just to give you a little bit of context, we have a government now that is 10 months old. They were voted in on the premises that we're going to improve the situation domestically and lower interest rates and do everything they could to lower inflation. But what they have basically done is spent all of their energy now on this referendum, but not been dealing satisfactorily with the domestic issues. And the feeling that I have and many other people have now is that they indeed think that it is positive for their cause to keep inflation high and interest rates high, so that the working people of Iceland would think that the only possible savior for us would be the European Union, even though the fact is that the European Union seems to be a sinking ship. But I would be thankful if you could help us sort of to understand where we are headed, because it seems also that the government of Iceland is very keen on having our money spent on weaponry and war, and spent on all sorts of funds abroad that don't seem to be thoroughly governed or investigated, and money is going into the climate funds and etc. So just this is the context, and I am very interested to hear what your view would be on this.
So this is part of a process that's been going on for decades now, where the leadership, particularly the financial system, wants to centralize economic and political control. And to do that, it's very important to destroy individual sovereignty. And you can't destroy individual sovereignty without destroying national sovereignty, because it's the national governments, particularly representative governments, that protect individual sovereignty. And so this is all part of this push. And what we've seen for countries that go into the EU is they lose their individual sovereignty, and in many respects, they end up in a debt trap. So, one challenge that the EU has faced over the last 2 decades, or certainly since 2014, is they have tried to move away from Russian gas, Russian oil and gas. And I remember the last time I was in Iceland, and I have to confess, your country is one I love tremendously. Um, if I had your rich geothermal and energy resources, I
Mhm.
would not let anyone, any international organization compromise my sovereignty, because whatever your domestic situation is now, and we can talk about why inflation is so bad, but whatever your domestic situation is now, it's going to be a lot worse if you let the EU grab your geothermal and energy resources. And if you look at what they need, I mean, literally, we've watched Germany, a significant portion of their industrial base destroyed by moving away from Russian gas, and we see major German companies moving to China just so they can get low cost energy. So, so I would think it would be exceptionally dangerous. The other thing is the EU is committed to building a war economy, and so any source of resources that they can grab to help them build that war economy, they're going to. And it's not just going to be your energy or other resources, it's going to be your young people too. So, there is nothing. Sometimes it's hard when people are struggling day to day to understand the financial value of sovereignty. But if you give up financial sovereignty or legal sovereignty, you can expect your country to be plundered.
Yes, we have we have this of the resources we have. Of course, we are rich in energy, and we have the fishing grounds, and we
Right.
control them. And so the government is now saying because they're I think they're opening a trap, and they're saying why not just have a look at the what treaty we can expect to get. But the thing is, the EU wants to be a federation. They want to have you know, one law, of course, for everyone, and they are closing in on. I mean, there are no exemptions to be made, and have made it relatively or pretty clear now, even in the past few days, that they are offering no exemptions. And if any special offers will be made, they are limited in time. So even though the government could say, well, the deal we could get would be that we would control our fishing grounds, we would control the energy policies, we would control immigration and all of the customs,
That's a
blah blah blah.
lie. They will never let you control those things.
That's right. They will never
That's
let
a
us
com
do it.
that's
But the thing is, we already control all of these things. So why would it be feasible for the Icelandic voters to say yes to this? I am having a
so
hard time understanding this.
I'll
Yeah,
tell you why voters say yes to this.
yeah,
The voters say yes with this because in my experience, any of these international organizations make it very attractive behind the scenes to, what you do is you identify a small elite of people within the country and you offer them tremendous backdoor deals to sell the country down the river.
right.
And it could be they have control files, it could be because they get sweet talked and tricked, it could be because they've been bribed. There are many different reasons. Okay.
Mhm.
So I don't pretend to know what's really going on behind the scenes, but what you do is you get some kind of leadership to sing a siren song and even engage in election fraud. I don't know if election fraud is possible in Iceland. Certainly is where I'm from in the United States. And the and so what they do is they keep bringing back the referendums until they get the kind of vote they want. And but what you have to understand is, I mean, I literally would not listen to any politician unless they were willing to take a polygraph and disclose all the promises and backdoor secrets and promises and deals and kickbacks and bribes they've been paid. I without a polygraph test, I would not listen to one person recommending this referendum.
Yeah. The we are worried about the voting fraud, possible voting fraud. There is the people have been voting. What do you call it in the states where they don't go on election day, but they go elsewhere before? So it's like
It's a mail-in ballots.
right. That's it. And then they seem to be very sloppy on keeping these mail-in ballots preserved and secured. People are bringing them in their handbags from Spain for other people, even for hundreds of people, individuals bringing them home in their hand luggage and all of these things that we are seeing. So we honestly don't know. Also, the pollsters are saying it's a 50-50 run now. It's on a knife's edge. But the feeling I have and a lot of other people is that it's a vast majority of people who are going to say no, and that the polling companies are sort of they are
They're trying
adjusting.
to persuade you it's much more popular than it
Yes,
is. Right.
yes. And so would that be something that you have heard from other countries that
That's a common technique that I've seen happen in the United States.
yeah, so we have what we are faced with is that we have all of the government, of course, with all its power. We have the media, which is mostly state run. We have the universities that are state funded, and then we have perhaps the pollsters as well.
So I would say it
And
a different way.
yeah,
You have the well compensated trying to persuade the uncompensated to finance more well compensated people taking advantage of them.
yeah, yeah. So So this is part of a bigger picture, as you say, that they are taking these the powers that be that I guess are not very easy to see. They are perhaps not the people who are actually in front of the cameras, but there are some powers behind all of this that, as you say, want to take the individual and the nation states and make them powerless.
Right. And here's how it used to work when when I was in the establishment. A decision would be made. So the decision is we need the geothermal resources and the fishing from Iceland, if we're going to do this war economy. So we need to pull them in. And we've decided that. And so then they go to all the leadership in Iceland and say, look, it's decided this is how it's going to go. And what you're told is if you buck the trend, you'll be out and you'll be in trouble.
Mhm.
And you're constantly told this is the way things are going to go. And so if you've been told that, you've got to go that way or else you're going to, get thrown out. And so suddenly everybody starts going that way because they've been told that's how it's going to go and they have to follow along. And the next thing because we are herd animals, right?
Right.
You know, the people of Iceland are looking, and all these prominent people are saying, "Okay, let's do this. This is what we need to be modern and progressive, and all these other things." And everybody feels like, well, if we're all going to go there, and it's inevitable we're going to go there, and the polls say we're going to go there, then I'm just going to go there because I want to be with the crowd, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. It takes a lot of courage, I guess, and independence to be able to go against the
No,
the
I don't
mainstream.
think I don't think it takes that much courage to not
No.
commit suicide. Because that's
Yeah.
what you're doing. You're saying, I'm
Right.
not going to commit suicide. I'm not going to give away my abundant energy resources. I'm not going to give away my fabulous fishing stock.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give away my beautiful country and land,
Yeah.
so that it can be sucked up for, more war economy grift.
Yeah.
No.
So tell us, when you talk about the war economy, and we realize, of course, that the EU is funding the Ukraine war effort, and of course, I guess we have other nations funding that as well, the British, and perhaps, of course, the US, I guess. But then, I mean, would you say that the EU is financially that it needs to actually to go on war footing? Is that the picture?
So I was just in Germany, and the feedback I have from the Germans that I spoke with said they don't want a real war, they just want a war economy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so and
So
so we're going to have a theater war. We're not going to have so much a war, but part of it is, if you're going to send all your industry abroad or put it out of business,
yeah.
then you need something to keep the economy going, and that's war. That's number one. But number two, um, they need something to keep the population controlled. And one of the reasons you have wars is to control your domestic population. So this is a way of, keeping the domestic population sort of, engaged and under control, as I suspect.
Yeah.
And it also means you have the infrastructure because you're going to continue to bring in lots of immigration, which is destroying the society and is
Right.
causing tremendous stress on the domestic population. And so going to a war economy helps you continue to do that.
And then do they use it then as an excuse, saying, "Well, we couldn't do better economically because we are at war"? Is that part of it?
I don't know how they're spinning it. I will say this, if you lose control of your immigration policy in Iceland,
Yeah.
it's frightening who could show up.
Yeah.
I mean, you could find yourself inundated with people who are not and can never be culturally compatible with you.
Yes.
And
And
that is
we are
very
also.
dangerous.
Yeah, and it's especially dangerous for us as we are a tiny nation with 380,000 people and effectively a very small police force. So we couldn't deal with a whole lot of this.
Right.
So it's a very serious thing. But what has happened, and I want you to know, and everyone should be aware of this, everyone who is listening, is that since 1944, when we became an independent republic, a sovereign republic, the issue of sovereignty has been more or less dormant, I would say. So it's been pushed and more aside. And anyone who has tried in recent years to pick up the issue of sovereignty, meaning that we should be able to set our own laws, govern our own borders, and who comes in and who leaves, etc., they have been sidelined. They have been called all sorts of names. And what this referendum has then, I guess, accidentally somehow brought about is the realization, I would say, of the majority of Icelanders that sovereignty is a crucial, pivotal issue in politics. I mean, if you run for office, you do it on the premise of your nation being sovereign and you being able then, as a, a parliamentarian or as a minister in government, to actually have some influence. But what has happened in Iceland and is happening to many other countries in the world is that we're being turned into like a post box democracy. And so that the laws and regulations are being sent from abroad. In our in our example, we are being sent regulations and directives from Brussels. And so the parliament has become more and more of a rubber stamp for this. And this has been since sovereignty has been like a side issue or has been sidelined, this has been a very sensitive topic. So when I brought it up during the election in 24, they tried to call me all sorts of names, but I was just pointing to the to where the puck is going. The puck is going, as you described, to foreign institutions. Power is being transferred away from the country. Power is being taken away from the individual. They use all sorts of emergencies to say, well, we cannot respect your, human rights right now because we have an emergency. We cannot run the government effectively, and we cannot take such good care of your tax money because we have to spend it on weaponry or this and that. So it's like we are somehow we're watching the politics distancing itself from our daily lives somehow. Do you understand?
So, yeah, so let me explain what the ultimate goal is.
Okay.
So, I'm going to describe something called the automatic third lock.
Okay.
Okay. Now, let's say you and I do a transaction with cash. I want to buy so you've gone out fishing and I want to buy your catch of the day and you want to sell it. And I pay you cash and you sell me the fish and you receive the cash. That's a two lock transaction. You have a lock and I have a lock. The transaction only happens if you and I agree. So either one of us can veto it or stop it, right? That's a two lock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you remember the Canadian truckers when they shut down their cash?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, increasingly, there's a third lock that the banks have. So they have rules, know your customer, money laundering sanctions, and they have a manual third lock so that if a transaction is in violation of any of these laws, they can stop it. They have a third lock. It's not just me and you, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a third lock in the middle, but it's manual. Now, if we go to an all digital system, and we're not there yet, but no cash, all digital, then centrally, the central banks and the ECB can apply a third lock that is automatic. So the bank's not involved. So if I want a social credit system that says if Orange's not good, he has to stay at home, he can't leave, or I mandate a health treatment for him, and he's got to take, whatever, and or I mandate that he was bad last month, so I'm going to apply a fee or a special tax and take it out of account. That's an automatic third lock that can be run with data centers and AI, right? So I can create a social credit system just for you and a different one for your wife and a different one for your neighbor. And I can track you with my surveillance systems, which are very energy expensive, which is why you'd like a lot of cheap, low cost geothermal energy. But I can track every person and I can control them centrally with an automatic third lock. So the head of the BIS in 2020 describing the system said, we can make the rules centrally and we have the technology to enforce them.
Mm.
So you're talking about going to a system which is not only representative government, but there's absolutely no sovereignty, and each individual can be surveilled and tracked and controlled centrally with an automatic third lock. Okay. But they can't get Iceland into that automatic third lock unless they first get you into the EU and subject to the ECB and everything else. And given your energy resources and your food supply, you have the conditions precedent to remain sovereign. You don't need to go into the EU. Why would you ever do that? Who would want to go into a system where you would be subject to an automatic third lock? You wouldn't. It's insanity, which is why you go to such extraordinary lies to market referendums to get you to do it, right?
Yeah, they're trying to sell us the idea that the EU is so compassionate and that it's taking care of us and that it's, doesn't want, they're sneaking in this chat control regulation where they want to actually be able to oversee everything that is being written between individuals.
Did
And
you
they
just
say
see?
we're doing this because we want to protect children. And some people seem to believe that, and then there's a new regulation coming in next year where they want to actually they want to like follow you when you're driving your car. They want to have you recorded the whole time. So it's really Orwellian what we're looking at.
Yeah,
But
it's complete control. Technology permits complete control. And
yes,
if you're the few and you want to completely control the many,
yeah,
technology in theory could allow you to do that. Now, but the thing is you've got to herd the sheep into the corral before you can throw the trap, right?
right,
And that's what this referendum is. They need you to agree to walk into the corral.
yeah,
And they want to make the corral look attractive, right?
yes,
So I don't know what happened, but the EU was making an effort to institute rules in the Mediterranean that said Portuguese and Spanish fishermen, and must have been French too, can only fish 27 days a year. They were trying to change it from 100 plus days a year of fishing to 27. I don't know if they got a pass or not. Spain and Portugal was trying to stop it. But those are the kind of rules you're going to end up with. Can you imagine the EU coming in and announcing to the Icelandic fishermen that they can only fish 27 days a year?
yeah, it's unbelievable. So I guess they want Iceland as such. They want the fishing grounds, the country, the energy and everything. The only problem is that they have a nation here of people who actually have been doing really well since we became sovereign in 1918.
Hmm.
So we do not understand, we don't see any economic or political or it's
So
hard to find the arguments.
here's your problem.
Yeah.
If I have empathy and I feel empathy for another person, it's very hard for me to understand that people exist who don't have empathy.
Yes.
And they are very good at organizing and tricking people who do have empathy. And the people who do have empathy cannot fathom that there are people who exist and are organized who have no empathy whatsoever.
Right.
Now, I have no problem doing that because I worked at the top of Washington and Wall Street. So I'm very familiar with many people who don't have empathy and are masterful at finding each other and organizing and using, emotional issues to trick people who do have empathy.
Hmm.
And I think, it's really funny. Do you know what my favorite place is in Iceland? I have two favorite places.
Yeah.
Can you guess?
I would guess Thingvellir. where the parliament was established. Have you been there?
Yeah, so no, my favorite is it's hard to decide between the two, but I have to say my favorite is the Sunship.
Oh yeah,
And watching, the fearless, people in the Sunship
yes,
moving forward. And to me, that's the spirit in
that's the
Iceland.
spirit. You
And
know,
that should
you
be the spirit to this, and my other favorite place is in the cathedral at the top of Reykjavik when the
yeah.
organ is playing. Because the organ is small, but it's beautiful. And when
Mhm.
you're in it, you feel this, this incredible higher mind, right? So between the Sunship and the spirit of the cathedral in Reykjavik, that's Iceland. Don't let that ever leave. And
Nice.
if you let this in, that spirit will be, every effort will be made to destroy and eradicate it with rules, with money, with everything. And if you
Yeah,
think inflation is bad now, look at what happens when they start using your geothermal resources to run the control grid.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. You're right about the spirit and the sonship. Like this is an art of a work of art. Because the people who actually settled in Iceland, they came here to be free of the taxation and the overwhelming power of the king in Norway. So I would think that the spirit is well alive in Iceland, and I would hope so. And thank you for the reminder. But you are saying basically, and I appreciate what you're saying, is that people who do not have empathy, they seem to find their way to the top level of the political arena, and
Yeah,
perhaps
they're
also,
very good at working together, finding each other and working together.
yeah,
I could tell you about a wonderful book, which I'll tell you about political ponerology, but I just wanted to say, the feeling in the Sunship, because when you're in a ship like that and you're sailing into the unknown, it takes incredible fearlessness. Do you know what I
yes,
mean? It took incredible fearlessness. If you go to the museum and get the whole story of how Iceland was populated, it took fearless people to do that.
absolutely, yeah,
And here's the thing, you need that spirit because, it's a spirit of we can do this.
yes,
And you need that spirit because you need to say, look, I know you all think that's the way it's going, and I know you all say we have to go that way and blah blah blah, but we don't.
right,
We're Icelandic. We don't have to do that. We're fearless.
yeah.
We
Well,
can do we can do the right thing.
absolutely.
We don't have to go along. We can do the right thing.
You are absolutely right, and I would like you to address that further because the feeling I have is that they are scaring people basically. They're saying the world is now such a dangerous place that we need shelter, and I don't know how they figure out that the EU is able to provide us with shelter. That's another
So
story, but
you're in danger, so you should let us rape you so those other
yeah,
guys don't rape you. It's like,
yeah. I mean,
well,
what is the best? I realize, of course, that people are worried and they may be fearful about their future, but what is the best medicine against fear?
I think the best medicine in Iceland is to remember who you are and where you
Yes.
come from and where you're going. In other words, we all have a responsibility to help lead through an uncertain period. And we are in an uncertain period. But we know that whatever happens in an uncertain period, there's a reason we don't want to be non-aligned, right? So the
Yeah.
world is a dangerous place, and you want to, look at little Liechtenstein. It works with everybody and manages to stay independent. So it can be done.
Hmm.
So you don't want to stay isolated. You want to stay engaged. So you need plenty of people in Iceland who are engaging and trying to work with everybody. So, but you what you have to understand is if we are going to have a world worth living in, then we have to lead and build that world. And that is something for Iceland to do. That is a role for Iceland to play. And there's nothing more important right now to do that, not just for Iceland, but for the whole world. In other
Yeah.
words, people need to know we don't have to collapse into a group controlled centrally by people who have no empathy for the human race. This is
Right.
not what it means to be human. Go back, sit down at the sunship and look at those arms raised. That's what it means to be human.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the world certainly is a complicated world. I would think we need more than one perspective, more than one solution to everything. We're dealing with complex issues. So one centralized solution for 450 million people would not be probably the best solution for a small island
Mhm.
nation that's far removed from mainland Europe. And I guess it would, on the same premise, not be a good idea for us to become like a 51st state of the US. I mean, there has to be a possibility for us to have open doors, have business and interact with everyone on friendly terms, and make alliances and not like sell our country, as you say, down the river.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, where do you think the people are using the U.S. as well to scare people now? What's your take on the U.S. at this moment and in the next few years? How are things
The
developing?
US is in real trouble.
Yeah.
Right. And that means Europe's in real trouble. The West is in real trouble. And if you look at the things we've done to, you know, to deal with that, it's only making it worse. Tyranny only makes the economic problem worse.
Yes.
So the centralization and consolidation of power is making things worse. And the dollar system is really hurting. But here's the thing, if you look at the reason it's hurting, we're not addressing the root cause. And that means we're in for serious trouble. That's where the inflation is coming from. But I assure you, if you go into the EU, it'll get much, much worse.
Yeah. And when you mention the root cause, then you're referring to
Productivity.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So crime, lawlessness, corruption, all these things are a terrible drain on the economy and on the trust that makes an economy go. What
Yes.
makes an economy go is real trust. And when trust is operating, so I worked in Wall Street and I loved it. I had a great, it was before the crime got really out of hand. And you could have 300 firms come together and do billion-dollar deals just on word of mouth. There was no email, there was no project management software. All we had was landlines and number two pencils. But we
Yeah.
could come together, make deals, agree, and your word was your bond. And suddenly 300 firms are doing $1 billion deal together. Total trust,
Wow.
total complete trust. It worked, but to have trust, you need laws and you need to enforce those laws. And that's why sovereignty is critical. And
Yeah.
you pull that out and you go to a centrally controlled digital economy with an automatic third lock, and you're in a slavery system.
Yes.
And that is very, words cannot express you, just as an investment banker, how expensive and wasteful tyranny is. It destroys trust, which destroys markets, which destroys economies. It stops so much innovation, except in selected areas. And that's what we see happening. The whole small business, small farming infrastructure, which should be benefiting tremendously from new technology, it keeps being ground down by the EU. Come go to, I'll never forget being at the opera in Germany. And there was another guest there who was in one of the big manufacturing industries. And I said, how's it been for you going into the EU? And he went off, and it was an hour description of thousands of rules that destroy their productivity, destroy their economics. I mean, well, the only way I can describe it, I was gobsmacked listening to the whole parade because he had chapter and verse. It was just like I just watched a new documentary on the destruction of Boeing and how Boeing as a company just, sort of went
Mhm.
into, became something where their brand new planes are falling out of the sky.
Yeah.
And and you I literally heard him describe how a group of unaccountable bureaucrats in Brussels were destroying this German industry, just destroying it
Yeah.
with rules. And I've seen the same thing happen in the United States.
Yeah. I think people here have, and I guess in many other countries, been blindsided, thinking that tyranny only comes from the extreme right, and not realizing that tyranny can come in many forms, and that it can also come in the form of bureaucracy and socialism. And I think probably the what we are dealing with. I don't want to paint a bleak picture here, but I see the EU as sort of combining the worst of everything. The biggest companies are stakeholders there. They have a huge social policy, which I cannot describe with any other word than socialism. And then
I
they
would
have
I would not describe it with an ism name. I just
no.
say it's incredibly expensive and wasteful and
Okay.
results in inflation.
Yes,
So,
right. Overspending, continuing
right,
overspending
right,
that causes inflation. And then they have this massive bureaucracy, which will hit the Icelandic companies very hard because they are all small on a
right,
European scale. They
right,
cannot cope with all of the
right,
regulations and manpower that they need to just know what's going on.
right,
So,
right. So I run two small businesses.
yeah,
I would say 35 to 40% of my annual overhead is dealing with regulation, compliance, and technocracy.
right. That's
Right.
right.
You cannot afford it. I
And
mean,
and and Catherine, you are living in Holland, right? In the Netherlands, is that right?
so I'm talking about the US
The
companies,
US.
but I
Yeah.
am living in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Netherlands is a high tax jurisdiction, but I do want to say about the Netherlands is if you look at how they run the infrastructure and the government and the country, it is exceptionally well managed and efficiently managed. And your
Okay.
dealings with the Dutch government is a dream compared to the United States.
Okay.
So,
And then the people here would say, I guess, well, if the Netherlands is doing so well and they are like,
no, the Netherlands is being destroyed.
yeah, but by the EU then.
The if you look at what's happened to the farmers and the fishermen
Yes.
as a result of EU regulation, it is one of the most frightening things I've ever seen.
So,
To
so
take a country that has, just an incredible farming and fishing industry being operated and run by some of the most admired people in the country, and you're just making war on it so that you can sell them lab grown meat and lab grown milk.
yeah.
Really?
Why are they doing this? I mean, what is going on?
I do not have a logical answer for it. If you come to Solari, we have a magnificent study we did called Dutch Farmers and Fishermen, and then one called Pharma Food. And I will tell you, I never, and I'm happy to send you copies if you're interested. When Elsa von Hemelen wrote Pharma Food, I'm one of those people I can read and look at anything. My pastor used to say, if we can face it, God can fix it. And I really believe that I'm a Christian, if you're a Christian, you can face anything and you can deal with it because you have the faith to do it. I could not finish Pharma Food in one sitting. I had to put it down, get a good night's rest, take a
Wow.
sauna, and then come back because it was so horrible. It is so horrible to read
Wow.
how they make lab grown meat and the fact that they think we're going to eat this. Now, if you have an automatic third lock, I can force everybody to eat lab grown meat because, their
Wow.
money won't work to buy anything else.
So is it I mean, okay, I will say it. Even though in Iceland you cannot think outside the box without being accused of being some sort of a conspiracy theorist. You're only allowed to think within the box that's created by the state-run media. But I mean, if you control the food of the people, I guess you would be able to control them 100% basically.
to
So is
to
that the
build to build a digital financial system that gives you
yes,
complete control with social credit
yes.
systems, you have to control the food
Yes.
because
So
people don't need money if they can go fish and barter. They don't
Yes,
need money. So
right.
if I'm
So
going
they,
to get the total control of food, of the money, I got to control food.
yeah, so it will be in so the governments, shall we say, and the EU, they may see this as a control mechanism. People would not be able to go off grid because they will not be allowed basically to grow their own food, to keep their own cattle, to fish freely, etc.
Mhm.
Because the whole thing has to be centralized and controlled. Is that what
Right.
we're talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So that would entail the money system, the food production, I guess the way that they are
And
uh,
it would help to control health. So
absolutely
after
health.
food, you want to control health.
Yes, and they have put in they have actually gone along with the international health regulation here in Iceland. There's a new law now that if there's a pandemic, then we will basically be under emergency power. This will go into effect on the 1st of September. And
Oh,
then they have all sorts of increasing regulations about the use of the private car. It
okay.
is
So, but here's the thing. They're pushing for this kind of control, and the decision everybody in Iceland has to make is do we want to be leaders in the future, or do we want to simply follow into the control corral and have them close the gate on us?
right.
Or do we want to walk into the slaughterhouse, or are we going to try and go our own way?
Yeah,
That's the decision you have to make. And
absolutely. And
the most important thing you need to know is there is a way to go your own way. You don't have to go into the slaughterhouse. There is there is another way, and that's yeah, and you have the ability and the wherewithal and the resources to do it.
yeah,
You have to find the faith and get
yes,
rid of the fear.
absolutely. Get rid of the minority complex that is really the part of the basic problem here. People saying we're so few, we're so far away, we don't have a voice. Okay, what do you want to do? Go into the EU?
Jesus and the apostles were
Yeah,
13, right?
that's right. And it conquered the world, right?
Yeah, right.
So
Was
the numbers are not as such. They are not telling necessarily. They
yeah.
are not the crucial issue. The most crucial issue, Catherine, would be then if we summarize this to we have to have faith in ourselves, in our country, in our ability to govern ourselves, to produce food that is healthy and clean, and to preserve our freedom to live as human beings, as
Right, but also to
not
believe
as slaves, right?
Lot also to believe that you have something to contribute to the whole global conversation and that
Yes.
you can take a portion of your governmental leadership and work to build relations with all sides globally so that
Yeah.
you don't have to align into one group. You can be a bigger Liechtenstein,
Yes.
if you will.
Yeah.
You can play an important role in leading out of this.
Yeah. But we need then to believe in our ability to contribute with good ideas and with, to use or stand on our roots and our history and contribute like that also. I mean, but that is the challenge basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You have to want to rise to the occasion.
Rise to the occasion. Yes. So
Can I
so
just mention one other thing?
yeah,
Okay. You happen to have one of the most amazing breeds of horses in the world.
that's right.
How are you going to protect them?
That is a great point because
Right.
we have actually heard that in the past few days that our laws that preclude living animals, foreign animals to be imported, that we would have to uh, allow the EU regulations to come in, which would mean that animals would be able to be moved
If
freely.
you
That would
if
mean all
you
sorts of disease,
if
more
if
use of.
you compromise the
Yeah,
Icelandic horses, I will
yeah,
never forgive you.
that's right. That's good. That's good to
I
hear.
will never forgive you.
Yes,
You need
yes,
to find your inner you know what, but
yes.
you cannot let that happen.
Absolutely not. No.
Right.
And it's also a massive concern because if cattle and horses and other breeds would be moved in here, we would have all sorts of disease, and that would mean we would have to use all much more pharmaceutical
Right.
products to make to raise the cattle, etc., and our food. So
You
it's a
don't want
health
that.
issue as well.
Right. You don't want that.
No,
You
absolutely not.
cannot let that. On behalf of the Icelandic horses, you must vote this referendum down.
That's it. That's good. Yeah. Any final words to the Icelandic people, Catherine?
My prayers are with you.
Thank you.
My prayers are with you. Everybody just needs to pray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And with prayer, we can find the courage that we need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know St. Patrick's
Yes.
prayer? Yeah.
No. Tell me.
Yeah. Hold on.
Remind me.
Let me get my prayer book. Hold on just a
Yeah.
second. Hold on.
Yeah.
So this is my favorite prayer. And I'm sure you can find it. It's called the breastplate of St. Patrick. And when St. Patrick was going into Ireland, he would pray this, and then the Druids were coming to kill him, and his men would never see him. They just see deer crossing the forest. So, but the favorite line. So you should look it up. I'll send it to you, and I have prayer books I can send. I arise today through the strength of heaven, light of sun, brilliance of moon, splendor of fire, speed of lightning, swiftness of wind, depth of sea, stability of earth, firmness of rock. So Iceland needs to rise. Now, tonight starts the lunar eclipse.
Why?
Did you know
Yeah.
that?
No, I didn't. We
Yeah,
had a solar eclipse just a few days ago.
I know. I was on Lake Geneva. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
So it's followed tonight. It starts tonight, the lunar eclipse, and goes for 6 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
change is coming.
Change is coming. And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. And please send me the text, and I'll distribute it here as best I can.
Okay. I will do
Great,
that.
great, Catherine. Thank you so
Okay,
much
Iceland,
for.
ladies and gentlemen of Iceland, may the people of Iceland arise to the occasion.
I believe they will. I believe they will. I have conviction that they will, and that the polls have been, they're being skewed as it stands now. I think it will
Yep.
be 60-40.
There
People will
you
say
go.
no. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, Catherine, many thanks again, and I hope to see you soon.
Me too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye bye.